Several people online were asking how to go about creating grass with the fiber effects tools in Lightwave. Now there's all different types of grass and different looks and things like that, but they were asking specifically how to create thick grass, so that not what you would see from a distance, but what you would see up close. And so what I thought we could do is, like I said, there's a lot of different types of grass we could create, but I'm going to create the type of grass that my home association here in my neighborhood would like me to have, that I haven't had much luck with out in the front yard, but I figured I could do it in Lightwave, and that would make me happy. So what I have here is just a flat plane, and I need to go ahead and throw some fibers on here. So I'm just going to hit Control F8 to bring up my processing tab and add pixel filter. Let's do fiber filter, and I'm going to double click to open it up. I don't need this panel anymore, and since I'm working with a small real estate here, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So now all I need to do is select the object in the scene that I want to apply fiber effects to, and of course all I have is that flat plane, so that makes it easy. So I'll just activate, and if we'd like, we can turn on the OpenGL draw feature, and we can see it back here. Now again, with more real estate, I would just slide this panel out of the way, but we can see enough of it here that I can get an idea of what I want to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and start running down and setting up some of the attributes. One of the nice things is that there's only a few attributes, and once you understand what each attribute does, you can get the type of look that you're after fairly quickly. So the first thing that I'm seeing is that I don't want them to be going as crazy as they are. So for stray, I'm just going to set that to 0. Okay, and for let's take kink and let's set that to 0, because I don't want the frizzy looking hair. For gravity, I'm going to set that to 0 for right now. As you can see, the fibers are going to stand straight up. Before, they started drooping, and now I'm going to want that, but I'm going to want to create that a little more random than what was going on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what's going to make us give us those blades, because right now these are just individual fibers. And so what I'm going to do is, for clump, I'm going to crank that all the way up to 100%, so that it will go and pinch those together at the end. So what clump does is, towards the end of the fibers, the fiber patches, it will pull them together. Now it'll only pull together each patch, so it's good to know that you're not going to be able to pull individual patches together. You can only pull each patch, the hair in each patch together. Okay, so I'm going to keep scale at 600, which normally is too long for most of the stuff that I've been working on, but for this we'll have a tall patch of grass. For random length, I'm going to crank that up to 100, so that we can see that we're now getting some randomization in there. But just like the surface editor, I rarely like to set these settings without using some kind of texture to drive it, just so that I have even more control over, and instead of just saying 100% random, I'm going to open up the texture editor. And a good one to use that I've been using a lot is your default turbulence. And let's go ahead and keep these settings the same except for scale. I want to shrink it down so that my pattern is much smaller. So let's just let's go small. So I'm going to try 20 millimeters, and we'll keep these settings. In other examples, we'll take a look at how we can crank up the value and contrast and things like that. Okay, so now I've got some random length that's going to be driven by this this procedural, and what I want to do is, let's go ahead and get a quick render just to see where we're at. So F9. And in 1.9 seconds, we can kind of start to see where we're at. I'm seeing that we're getting the strands. I'm not really liking the density. I think that we need a lot more. It's looking too wispy. And there's another thing that we can do to fix that. But I'm going to go ahead and crank up. Let's do fiber density. I'm just going to crank it up to 150. I want just a boatload of fibers in there. And in 5.1 seconds, we have a lot more fibers, and we're starting to see a little bit more of what we're after. Now, one thing that I'm noticing is that the ends are becoming transparent. They're transparent at the tip. So I want to fix that, because for grass, I don't want that. It's a great feature for hair. So I'm going to go over to the shading tab, and under tip transparency, I'm going to say 0. I don't want any part of that tip to be transparent. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue. That's 4.9 seconds for this. A little less time because it doesn't have to worry about the transparency. So I like where this is going, except I don't think grass usually grows straight up like that. So that's where we're going to go back to gravity, but instead of just using the same gravity all over by just keying in a number here, like I said, most of the time I like to drive it with something other than just a scalar value. So I'm going to use procedural. Let's use turbulence again, and for this, let's try 200 millimeters. And so basically, I'm just shrinking down this texture here. And let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, so we're getting really close to what we want. Now, again, I'm thinking about my home association in the neighborhood, and my grass kind of looks like this in areas, and they're not very happy. So we should probably change